Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to another of our Managing Your Small Business Beyond the Pandemic. This is webinar number 65. Oh, excuse me, it's number 66 in our series. Disregard the slide, it's kind of so last week. So I am your host, Kelly Bearden, and today I'm going to be joined by Teresa Hitchcock, who also actually missed this opening slide. So just the opening slide and a few others I'm sure that we'll have a problem with today. So as you're aware of, we have I'm part of the America's SBDC program. Small Business Development Center is in all 50 states and US territories beyond the contiguous 48 states, and is funded in large part by the US Small Business Administration. So at CSU Bakersfield SBDC, our office is located in downtown Bakersfield, 17th and H. We are part of the CSUB School of Business and Public Administration, and we serve proudly 3 counties, Kern, Inyo, and Mono County. I like to call it kind of like the Central California boot without the heel. So a little bit of Italy right here in Central California. We also have centers throughout our region, centers in Clovis, in Merced, Modesto, Salinas, and at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo. So if you have any questions, any business issues, or need any type of assistance, or even just a mentor to talk to about a particular issue, problem, whatever, reach out to your SBDC. SBDCs also, a variety of our sister centers offer other types of training and programs. We have market research that's available to assist your businesses, and a lot more. Well, we're here on Webinar Wednesday and have been coming to you since 2013. And the reason is our fine sponsors that help sponsor us in our Webinar Wednesday program and our other programs. And that includes the California State University Bakersfield School of Business and Public Administration, also the County of Kern County, California, Mid-State Development Corporation, and also we are powered by SBA and the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development. So a big thank you to all of those entities and all those organizations. So as we're tend to do is what's new today, June 16th. And as you see, we are open for business, big letters. June 16th, it's been a long haul. But we're here now, and June 16th, no more 25% open, no more 50% open. We are 100% open. It's kind of strange seeing ballparks filled to capacity after last year's cardboard cutouts, but we're there, June 16th, 2021. And so what are we seeing and what are we going to focus on this week is we're focusing on workers are becoming a scarce commodity. Finding employees for your particular businesses as businesses expand, as they expand their hours, as they grow, as they try to get back to the market share they had, continues to be kind of a scarce commodity. Also, remote work battles are now beginning with employees. And so those of you that have maybe professional staffs and office work and office environment, where they have been able to function in a remote capacity for much of the last 15 months. We're starting to see interesting data that comes out that actually suggests that employees are having a hard time coping with coming back to the workplace environment. And we'll address that and talk a little bit about that in maybe our poll. We will have our poll today. We'll have a couple of questions related to our employment workplace related topic today. We'll take your questions. So if you have any questions today, please go to the Q&A box. Our producer, Maureen Busher-Dang, will be monitoring the chat box, and she'll be working the chat with some resources that you can grab. And also, we'll talk about pandemic relief, something that's only been going on for about 15 months. But let's start first with our poll. So just some interesting things in the news lately about employees and about workers and about our workforce in general. And I know many of you told us in our poll a few weeks ago that this was an important topic for you. So we're going to have a few related kind of poll questions that are not so much asking you for information, but just kind of providing information that other people have gleaned. And we're going to launch our first poll question as we move forward. And it is, as we begin to move beyond the pandemic, US workers are quitting jobs at the highest rate since what year? Is it 1942, 1966, or the year 2000? So fresh in the news, I believe yesterday, was a report that US workers are leaving their employment, maybe for reasons that we'll figure out eventually, but anyway, they are leaving and quitting jobs at a high rate. So was it 1942, 1966, or the year 2000 was the highest, since 2021, the highest year. And we're starting to get a good indicator of where you feel on this. We're seeing nearly half of you are selecting 1966, and about a quarter each for 1942 and for the year 2000. Okay, with 66% of you voting, we're going to close the poll right now and end it. So last chance. And it's closed. And share the results with you. And you say that 1966, 46% of you. And 46% of you are incorrect. It was not 1966. 29% of you said 1942. 1942 made a lot of sense, you know, kind of that whole World War II thing happening starting late in 1941. But it was actually 25% of you are correct with the year 2000. The only thing I can think of is a lot of anxiety around the year 2000, a lot of things going on with the new century. Maybe people were saying, hey, you know, this next century, I'm going to get a new job. So right now, it's been 21 years since we're seeing the highest rate of US workers quitting their jobs. So I kind of found that a little bit interesting. Let's move on to poll question number 2. And a little bit related, but this kind of asks for your input. So what do you think the main reason US workers are leaving their jobs? So maybe you've had some that have quit. And so let's look at this. The main reason US workers are leaving their jobs to seek more independence at work, to seek a greater opportunity. The pandemic has reassessed their situation. Stimulus and the pandemic unemployment assistance has given some the opportunity to change jobs. And maybe it's other reasons, like maybe upward advancement, more pay, etc. So what is the reason why all these US workers are changing their jobs, why they're leaving, quitting jobs and moving on to other positions? The highest rate in over 2 decades. And not a right or wrong answer here, just getting your opinion as a group. And we have about 65% of you in, so we'll give you a few more opportunities to jump in. And jumping up to 72%, that's a nice sample size. So what do you think the main reason US workers are leaving their jobs for? And the answers you said are 38% of you have individuals maybe reassessing their own situation because of the pandemic. The pandemic did change a lot of things. So 38% of you makes a lot of sense. Maybe some employees feel a little bit more financially confident with the stimulus and being able to maybe work through the pandemic and the pandemic relief insurance that's been available. 34% of you say that. 16% is maybe to seek more independence at work. Maybe it's tied to remote work or some other thing like that. And then 6% of you is actually to seek the greater opportunity or another reason. So interesting, 2 really stand out. Main reason you feel that US workers might be leaving their jobs. 38% of you have them reassessing their situation with the pandemic, and 34% with stimulus and PUA. Okay, we'll stop sharing that poll and we'll move on to our final poll, question number 3. And now, you know, another right or wrong answer on this one. So, but this one is a little bit different and has to do with remote workers. And there was an article that came out recently that said that a certain percentage, as I launched the poll, of employees who began working remotely during the pandemic said losing flexibility was a source of anxiety about returning to the workplace. So is it 24% or 48% or 71% of the workers out there? So go ahead and vote. I see I made this a multiple choice. You can select all three and be right. But I do have a visual, it looks like I have a visual opportunity to give you the answer to this particular question. But again, I have been, by my guest host, I have been outed as far as where the source of my poll question came from, and I'll share it with you. So essentially, we're split on 44 and 71%. 44% of you, each large amounts. But as I share the results here, we see that essentially 44% say 71%, 48% say 42%, and the correct answer is right here. According to this news report, 71% of employees who began working remotely are experiencing anxiety about returning to the workplace. Now, other than our student interns and workers and our independent contractors, which we have plenty at the SBDC, I only have one employee technically. So I'm not feeling any anxiety at all about working with this. Now, when we get to introduce our guest speaker, Teresa Hitchcock, she has 130 employees that she gets to work with this issue on. So congratulations on that. Okay, well, thank you everybody for sharing and for participating in the polls. Always a good source of information that you can provide of where we're going with this. So, okay. Let's move on a little bit. Oh, let's see. This was a previous poll question, and this was a really big help because with this poll question from 6 weeks ago, we asked as we begin to get beyond the pandemic, what were your biggest challenges? And I almost asked you this question again, but many of you would remember it from 6 weeks ago. So one of those answers 3, hiring employees, employee hiring and retraining and bringing back your customers were the number 2 answers for that, as we did a little market research. Okay, so let's look at some of the pandemic relief programs that key stimulus programs and give you a 1-page synopsis of what's going on here. As we know, PPP for 2020 and 2021 is now closed. A lot of people are still spending their money during their covered period. You have it the 24 weeks from the time you got that money to spend it. Remember, you want to make sure your spending plan includes 60% on employees, which of course brings employees into the equation again, having the money to spend on those employees to get the full forgiveness. Remember, it's a grant. If you get full forgiveness, it's a loan if you don't. So not everybody wants full forgiveness, but most of you that I've talked to over the last 15 months do, and that includes both PPP, your first draw and your second draw, if you got it, of having that plan to spend 60% on employees or employee-related expenses. So that's what's kind of been going on with PPP as it closed on May 31st. We don't see that reopening. A couple of other items that are interesting, and one is the shuttered venues grants, and it's basically the $16 billion grant for venues that were dramatically impacted. That is still open, and you can apply at the SBA's Shuttered Venue Operator Grant Portal. That is still open. It has been a kind of a slower process. As I've mentioned on previous webinars, the SBA, through their administrator's office in DC, offers some of us technical service providers the opportunity to have office hours with them on Thursday at 10 a.m. And I have been taking advantage of that to get the latest on what's going on in this program, since we do have a handful of you that applied, and it's been kind of a really challenging and one of the more difficult stimulus or actually pandemic relief programs that we've gone through. SBA has called it the most difficult grant program, or the most complex grant program they've ever administered. So on the call last Thursday, they were still struggling because they had issues where, if you remember, the size of that program for shuttered venues went up to $10 million. And as I've mentioned for many of our webinars, I believe the shuttered venues program is more of an urban-based program than a lot of our rural-based programs, which much of our 3 counties include. It is really going to be your entertainment meccas. It's going to be theater in New York. It's going to be, or any major city. It's going to be your concert venues and things like that that have really been hammered the most by this. So there are those that applied for $10 million, and then there's some that applied for, say, 50 or 60,000. Well, one of the problems SBA is running into with that program is that they're trying to administer the same criteria on the review process for a $50,000 loan or grant compared to a $10 million. And so, in many of the past webinars I've talked about, with most of these pandemic-related programs require the SBA to obtain your tax return from the IRS directly. And it is at least my contention, my idea, my belief that a big problem of that is getting those done, because there's been so many of them, and it's been a difficult process. So there's still not a lot funded. We're talking to a lot of our small businesses that have applied for that, and they're still in the review process. It's a industry, it's an area that they're very sensitive at the SBA. And talking to them, they want to get this stuff moved off their desk. They want to get loans or grants approved and get it out there. But as far as the shuttered venues grant, it's still kind of slowing down. Hopefully I'll have a better update after tomorrow. There was a lot of news in the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, and I've been receiving some questions from you about how it went pretty fast at the beginning. Many of you have been approved, but as of Monday, there was a kind of an interesting or startling development for many of you that have been approved. So on my synopsis, my one-pager here, you see the Restaurant Revitalization Fund is closed. You will need to plan to spend your money when you get your money, but like a horse race, I'm asking you to hold your tickets. And the reason is there has been an inquiry, there's been a lawsuit out of Texas that a federal judge upheld on Monday afternoon, I believe, suggesting that potentially this program could be unconstitutional because the $28.6 billion that was going out to basically underserved and also a specific gender. So from our association back in DC, the news we got on late Monday was that they're trying to do a legislative fix. Part of the problem is where there's still money available for shuttered venues. The Restaurant Revitalization Fund had $28 billion, but they had about $80 billion worth of applications for that money. And the money ran out with the staggered period to where it allowed underserved and economically challenged and other groups such as women and veterans the opportunity for first access to that money. So hold tight. It's now, I'm sure that the SBA and the government's going to appeal that ruling. Plus they're looking at legislative fixes to maybe include more money and make it wider. So hold your tickets on that. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news because I know many of you out there are looking forward to the RRF fund in order to really help your restaurant and to really move your food or beverage business forward. So sorry, that's the best I can give you right now. Your Employee Retention Tax Credit Program is open. It's still open for 2020. As we've talked about, there's been numerous changes in 2021. The program has been extended until 12/31. However, the only guidance that we have received is from leading up till June 30th of 2021. So with the last stimulus package, it extended it from 6/30 to 12/31. However, that final guidance, the devil in the details, which is often said in this building, won't be available till then. The EIDL loan and the EIDL information. The EIDL loan ends on 12/31. Getting a lot of questions also, and what we're seeing, and we've talked a little bit about this, is that those that are looking to increase their economic injury disaster loans, or if they're looking at the EIDL advance or supplemental advance, they're all open. But all of this happened at kind of the same time for SBA. And so they are really, I think, under a lot of pressure, and there have been a lot of requests in it. So it's slowed down the response rate. So the important thing to do is, if you want, you can contact, did this yesterday with a client, contacted the toll-free number, and you can also email request. If you've been denied, you can submit for reconsideration, and we'll hopefully have that stuff in the chat box where you can go into. So the EIDL program, I would request that you just try to remain patient as possible. Also had a question on the Community Navigator program, if it was open to nonprofits or for-profits. And really quickly on that topic that is a program that is going to create technical service providers similar to what the SBDC does, but it's going to really target those really trusted messengers deep in minority type communities and rural communities and other areas that are traditionally underserved. I'm 100% supportive of that. I would love it if we can get a Kern County based applicant out of that, but again, this is dealing with SBA and SBA grants. And, fortunately I have the administrative support of CSUB behind me. And these grants are not easy, and they require a lot. And I believe you need to be a nonprofit organization in order to apply. But questions on that this week came in, and I just wanted to let you know where we are. We'd love to see somebody, maybe a faith-based organization or group or community-based organization, take kind of the lead on that, and to develop that program to really reach the smallest and neediest businesses, as we saw finally getting some financial relief from these programs in the last 3 months or so. So the California Relief Grant Program is closed. The Family Leave Act tax credit is open. And then on PPP forgiveness, it continues to be open. And remember, it is due 10 months from the end of your covered period. And for any loan after June 5th of 2020, any PPP loan, that is a 24-week covered period. Until then, you had the election of 8 or 24 weeks. Before then, it was 8 weeks, but then you were given an election to make that 24 weeks. Most people select the 24 weeks, which is the equivalent of 6 months, in order to spend the money. And then from the end of that date, then it really starts the clock on you really needing to seek forgiveness. And remember, this is going to be a loan unless you go through that forgiveness process. And PUA, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Relief, that's available not only for workers, but also for independent contractors and self-employed people, is open until September the 5th. Discussed a lot of these EIDL changes and really want to get back on our topic of workforce development, but let us know if you have any questions. You can email me directly at kbearden@csub.edu, and we can address any of those questions or put them in the Q&A box, and we'll get into those. There's your email address in order to get a larger economic injury disaster loan, and also additional resources on how you go in and to apply. If you actually received an email from the SBA, you are eligible for the targeted advance. And if you, for some reason, were declined after submitting information, because the process is you get an invitation and they ask you for additional information, which includes, of course, sitting through and actually defining and showing a 30% reduction over an 8-week period of time from your 2019 sales to your 2020 sales. So there's a few other pointers about including the body of your text. You can get reconsiderations. We see it all the time where people were initially not awarded the grant, and then they came back and were able to receive it when they had the additional information. Here's your timeline on forgiveness. Again, 24 weeks to use the funds if you use the 24-week covered period, and you essentially have 10 weeks from the end of that time Your lender can take another 2 months and SBA another 3 months. Forgiveness is continuing to be a key issue as we see moving forward. Here's a lot of the documents that you'll see moving forward. We talked a great deal on PPP forgiveness last week. All of our other 65 pandemic relief webinars are on our YouTube channel, CSUB SBDC on YouTube. You can get those there. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Teresa Hitchcock. And Teresa probably is aware that I know I have had an introduction or two in my lifetime. She has many accomplishments. I pulled my favorites out of these. They might not be the greatest accomplishments that she has had in a couple of decades work with the County of Kern in various positions, but they're my favorites. And they include, oversight of a diverse team of 130 employees at ETR, the Employment and Workforce Development, also known as America's Job Center, but launching a culinary training center at the Southeast Center through the Bakersfield Adult School with Mark Wyatt, and bringing in Chef Robert, one of my favorite places to go. And I'm really a fan of culinary, this culinary incubator and culinary training. I saw what it did for my son, attending and going through a community college culinary program and then teaching a culinary program before opening his restaurant, and how valuable it is and how it creates a lot of really entry-level jobs in the food service industry that's always going to be big. Teresa also was the interim director of the Kern County Airports for a considerable amount of time before a full-time replacement was hired, and managed a significant runway project, and also got us a little bit of air service to Dallas through American Airlines. Was instrumental in bringing a key study, an economic development study on out to East Kern on the diversity of the economy, a lot of aerospace and defense in East Kern, and bringing economic diversification. The strategy has been important for moving forward with Eastern Kern County. And of course, I'm going to admit and mention that she is a proud alumni of California State University and honored in 2014 as an outstanding alumni. Teresa, thank you for joining us. I will move the camera over, put it over here, and let you take it away.
Thank you so much, Kelly, for that kind introduction. As Kelly mentioned, I am currently over Economic and Workforce Development for the County of Kern. I have a staff of over 130 people. Actually, it's constantly fluctuating that help with those activities. So the agency that runs workforce development, that's really what I wanted to talk about today, is workforce development and how do we reopen. As Kelly mentioned, we had great news. We're off with the masks hopefully soon, even in the workplace. And so how do we get our businesses reopen? And we need employees, right? So Employers Training Resource is a county department. It is fully funded through the Federal Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Program. I did have a really nice presentation to show you guys today, but unfortunately, technology being what it is, it's not working. So you're just gonna have to stick with me on as I explain some of the program. And there's a lot more information at our website, which is America's Job Center of Kern. So Employers Training Resource is one of the agencies in the America's Job Center. We have over 21 partners who provide different services. Employers Training Resource does provide a number of employer services specifically for employers. We have 11 locations. One of them is on Olive Drive. The Olive Drive location has a recruitment and business center specifically for employers. So if you're a small employer and you need to run a very large recruitment, but you don't have the facilities or space for that, we provide that at no cost. So we'll run the recruitment for you. If you have specific job descriptions or specific requirements for your employees, We will also screen folks and make sure that only the people who meet your requirements get to you for interviewing. This can save you a tremendous amount of time. Rather than interviewing hundreds of people for a position, you may end up only interviewing 20 or so folks who actually meet your requirements. And so you get to select from candidates who are pre-screened. In addition to that, we have an on-the-job training program. I think this is particularly important for our small businesses. We just applied for a waiver. So normally on-the-job training, we would pay for 50% of a new hire's wages while they're going through training in order to learn your systems and processes at your business so that they can become a fully functioning member of your organization. But we've applied for a waiver for businesses who have 50 or fewer employees, where we could pay up to 90% of wages. We think this is really important as we're coming out of this pandemic situation where we can really help small businesses as they ramp up with employment. We know that revenues have been hurt over the past year, and that hiring new folks can sometimes be difficult when you don't have necessarily the revenue to support that. So this 90% waiver we think is going to really be helpful, as we could offer a 90% reimbursement for new hires as they're training with you. So we're really excited about that. Hopefully it gets approved. It's not approved through the state yet, but we are working on that approval process. So a couple of other things that we have is we also offer traditional training. So if you're a small business and you have specific skills that your employees need, but let's say you run a welding operation or even medical, we can put your employee in training that will help them gain those additional skills that your organization might be looking for. We can also do upgrade training. So if you're retooling, let's say that you're a manufacturing plant and you have new equipment coming in and the manufacturer has specific training requirements for that manufacturing equipment, we can do what's through the eligible training panel. We can provide on-site training in order to get your employees up to speed on the new equipment so that they can be 100% fully functional on that equipment, and it can save you both time and money in training. So that's the training piece of it. We also have another opportunity for folks, and that's if you want to be a second chance employer, if you have the ability to hire folks who are re-entering, perhaps they've had an issue and they've been incarcerated for a minute and they're trying to get their life back on track, and you as an employer have an opportunity for those folks to go to work at your business. We can provide full wages for those folks in the form of work experience so that they can come work for you. You can get a feel for them. You can see how they do. And then if you decided to hire them full time, and we found that a lot of these folks coming out of incarceration, especially when given a chance, they're really trying to impress their employers, and they're really they're serious about making sure that they're making the most of those second chance type opportunities. So we, if you decided that you were going to hire them full time, we could assist you with the work opportunity tax credit, which is another financial incentive for employers to give folks another chance at getting their life on track. In addition to that, we can advertise for positions. So I had some really nice advertising pieces that we put together that shows how we advertise for different employers. We run a number of spots on local television in order to advertise what openings are taking place within the community. We have our job corner, which is on at noon on Wednesdays. We run a half-hour spot in the morning on radio to talk about new job openings. And then we have a couple of other television spots where we post employers' job openings to make sure that we're getting them out to as broad an audience as possible. In addition, we run Job Squad every Thursday. It was in person, but that's another opportunity to showcase what employers have available in the community to a wide range of job seekers. So Job Squad has Job Squad has been virtual over the last few weeks. So we've been running it on Facebook Live, but we're hoping to get back to an in-person format with folks, because a lot of times it's helpful. People are more prone to pull the case manager aside at the end of that and ask them, well, you know, what are the specifications for the job? And so we tend to get a little better response in person, but we're still getting the word out there so that these folks know that these positions are available in the community. And I know that hiring has been, at least we've been told by the employers that we work with, that hiring's been a little bit challenging right now, that there's really not a lot of folks out there coming into their businesses looking for jobs. So if you need assistance with getting a position marketed, please feel free to contact us. You can go to americasjobcenterofkern.com, or you can call 325-HIRE, and we would be happy to help you with any of those employment needs. And if you're interested in the on-the-job training contracts, we have at the current time the 50% reimbursement rate, but we have applied for the waiver for the 90% reimbursement rate. And we do have some work experience opportunities. In addition to the reentry folks, we do have some other work experience programs for youth 18 to 24. So if you're interested in giving a kid his first job, we'd be happy to help you source that as well. And I think Kelly had some questions for me that
Well, first a comment, being on the Workforce Investment Development Board, and I might have got that right this time. For a number of years, I really have seen the great work that we have been able to do through ETR and America's Job Center that Teresa has done in really giving individuals a chance, another chance, a second chance. And really right now, it seems like this is an excellent resource that's available. Because I have heard from a lot of you that unemployment, you have people that don't want to come back until their unemployment runs out. And if they haven't had a job or they hadn't been working before the pandemic, they don't get that unemployment, and they really are hungry for the opportunity. We've had a number of our clients that have actually accessed the on-the-job training, and 6 months of paying an employee half of their wages is a real incentive for bringing people on and giving them that opportunity. So I just wanted to reiterate that. But Teresa, are you seeing, what are the trends that you're seeing or you're hearing from your job developers locally? I mean, I get to read a lot of stuff that what's going on, like the Moab, Utah McDonald's that's having to pay or trying to hire people at $18 an hour, which is twice the state rate. And really, real challenges that employers are having in finding people.
So we are seeing wage pressure. A lot of that is that supply and demand issue where we don't have enough workers to fill the available openings. We're trying to, of course, entice folks who have not been in the job market back into the job market. And then we're trying to entice folks who were in the job market, but as you mentioned, are on pandemic unemployment. We're trying to get those folks back into work. So there is wage pressure, and that is predominantly because of the supply and demand issue. We're seeing a ton of job openings. There are just, businesses are hiring throughout the county, and the number of jobs out there is staggering. So if you're a small business who has relatives and you know they need to go to work, it's a great time. Send them our way. We'll be happy to find them something that fits their skills and abilities.
Now, one of the real benefits of the on-the-job training program is that can they actually find the employee and then bring them to you if they qualify for the on-the-job credit?
So
is that still available?
So they can. So that's called a reverse referral. And we do that a lot with employers, is that they find folks that fit their specific business need. And then we enroll them in the on-the-job training process. And it's mostly for people who've never worked for your company. Well, it's only for people who've never worked for your company. So, or again, if you're retooling or changing your process, or if you're promoting someone, we see that a lot as well, that perhaps someone's been in an entry-level position, and now they want to promote them to the next step, but they don't necessarily have those skills yet. So all of those scenarios are available. You could have an existing employee that you're needing to promote because you can't find someone for that higher level position, and we're happy to help with that as well.
One of the things that, you know, when I watched more television before you people made me busy, you always had that prime slot on like channel 17 on Tuesday morning news.
We did. So it was at 6:20 in the morning. That has moved to noon. And the reason they moved it to noon is they actually gave us more time. So because we were having so many job openings, and a lot of times we have a lot of training opportunities for folks too, because we have a lot of folks out there who, for whatever reason, may not have completed their education or might not have gone, you know, to get a secondary credential, and we can provide that opportunity as well for folks. So they moved us so we have more time to talk about the things we have available right now, especially because there's again, there's so much demand from business, and there's so many folks out there who need to go back to work.
And I've seen some really unique jobs. I mean, that's a great opportunity for those of you out there that might have a unique job posting even, is to contact ETR, and to maybe they could actually do that promotion for you, as they do with a lot of the employers.
We do. We're happy to promote job openings and get the word out there. And you may have a unique job, but we can almost always find someone to fill it.
So there were, I think you might have mentioned this, but you offer a lot of employment services, maybe even screening and other things.
We do. We have a very large recruitment center. We just opened it. It's on Olive Drive. We have a very large conference room. We've got private interview rooms. So the conference room could be used to hold candidates while you're separately interviewing them in the interview rooms. And we also will do pre-screening. So if you have specific requirements for your job, they need to have these skills, they need to have the certificate. Our job developers would go through the applications and make sure that everybody that you're interviewing has those qualifications, because we all know that, you know, sometimes folks apply and sometimes you just can't hire someone unless they have those specific skills and abilities that you need for that job.
Great. Now, how many offices do you have throughout Kern County?
So we have 12 offices throughout Kern County, actually. We have a youth center, so we do have specific opportunities for folks 18 to 24. So if you're interested in that age range as well, that might be an opportunity for us to connect some folks to you. We have, of course, the Business Center on Olive Drive. We have our main America's Job Center, which is out on East Bell Terrace. And then we have, of course, in the outlying areas, we have a large office in Delano. We've got offices in Ridgecrest. We've got offices in Kern River Valley. And then through a joint powers agreement, our area also serves Inyo and Mono counties. So services are available in those counties, and I would encourage any of our rural employers to seek out their local office. And you can find the specific addresses for all of our offices at americasjobcenterofkern.com.
Great. Great. And I know that one thing, maybe some of you got familiarized with ETR and America's Job Center during the Kern Recovers program, one of our favorite pandemic relief programs here at the SBDC, distributing PPE. How did that go?
We did. So we also started up a jobs hotline, because earlier you were talking about all of those programs that businesses had access to, but we found that it was a lot and it was very confusing. So we had a business hotline that businesses could call and find out what they were eligible for, and we would put them in contact with the correct agency. That hotline is still up. I had it on my PowerPoint that I don't have up here, but I will get it to Kelly so we can get it out to everybody. But we also did distribute protective equipment, because one of the things we heard from our businesses was that they weren't even able to buy it. It was such a shortage because everyone was buying the personal protective equipment, but government agencies were allowed to buy it, and we had special channels. So we bought personal protective equipment, and we distributed it through our 11 locations and also at a number of libraries throughout the county, just to make sure that our employers locally had access to that so that they could continue to operate, because it was required for their employees, and without it, they couldn't operate. So we served over 1,900 businesses who represented 46,000 employees. So we were really happy and excited to do that. We thought that was one of the one of the highlights during the pandemic that we ran, was just to make sure that those employers could continue to operate.
Well, if you have any questions, go to the Q&A box and put your questions in there. We're going to get to that in just a moment. I'm looking through the chat box, and I see Maureen has been busy. And there are your links. So there's a variety of different links up here for you. A lot of the employee retention tax credit, which is another reason, the retention tax credit, we're going to have to find out how that works if you replace an employee that left with a new one.
So we also have a couple of specialized training programs that we just started. Kelly mentioned the culinary program. That's going to be starting back up in the fall. Of course, the school district was closed, not closed, but they weren't able to operate in person. And some of those things do require hands-on skills. So that's reopening in the fall. So if you are in the restaurant industry and you're interested in very well-trained employees, that's a great opportunity for you to pick up some folks who have not only been given culinary cooking skills, but they've also been given great customer service skills, because that's a dual component program where they not only learn how to cook and serve in the kitchen, but they also learn customer service and how to interact with your customers. So, and then we have another specialized program that we're opening up right now that's like near and dear to my heart. And it's a recycling program, a glass recycling program. And it's actually training people in logistics, warehousing, and then manufacturing, because it's a manufacturing process where they're taking raw glass material and turning it into landscape mulch. A byproduct of that is sand, which I understand is in short supply right now. But those folks just started yesterday, as a matter of fact, our first cohort. So they're training right now. We've had a number of logistics companies who are interested in them, but they're also, again, they're going to be learning how to operate equipment and machinery, and a lot of that's transferable to manufacturing as well. So they might be a good fit for some of our small manufacturers.
Great. Well, I know I was impressed at Cafe 1600 with the work being done, and the customer service is what I always forget, but they also teach front of the house skills in addition to the back half. And it was evident, not only in the product that they put out in the back under the guidance of Chef Robert, who was the fare that was phenomenal, but also you could see that the training that they were getting was invaluable and was going to be a real great benefit. I did find another use for broken glass. Somebody asked me if I had any broken wine bottles because they wanted to put them down gopher holes.
Oh, interesting.
Because apparently gophers are, they bleed rather easily. I can't remember the term, not being a medical person.
Well, here's the thing. That's interesting that you bring that up. So our glass goes through a process where it's pulverized, and then it actually goes through a tumbler. So it comes out more as sea glass. That's why they use it as landscape mulch, because you can walk on it, you can pick it up, you can squeeze it in your hand, and it won't cut you. So, and then because it's glass, it's, you put it in your landscape beds, the water can permeate it, but it will hold the moisture in. So it's really good for drought climates like ours, to hold the moisture in. And then because glass is heavier than a lot of your other landscaping materials like bark, when your gardener comes and they blow out the flower beds, how they do to get rid of the excess leaves and stuff, the glass doesn't blow out like that because it's a much heavier material. So we're really excited to introduce this to our local area. They use it pretty heavily in Hawaii. That's where one of my employees thought that was kind of the nexus for this program to start. And we really love the skills that we're going to be able to teach people as they move forward. So We think it's a win-win to get that glass out of the landfill, hopefully help build some landscaping that's drought friendly so that we are not using as much water, and then also giving folks skills they need to go to work.
Exciting project. And the Gophers are happy now. No gopher kill there. Okay, let's see what we have as far as questions. Is the waiver for on-the-job training offered in other counties such as San Joaquin or Stanislaus?
So I don't know specifically if they've applied. Every workforce board in the state had the opportunity to apply, and I've heard other workforce boards say that they were going to apply, but I don't know if they actually did. So we did actually submit a waiver for that from Kern County.
So what you'd want to do is you'd want to contact the Valley Sierra SBDC in Modesto and contact them, and they'll be able to give you an answer if locally that program applies. But if not, they have plenty of other job training programs that will apply for other regions outside of Kern and Yomono as well.
They do. They would still have access to the 50% OJT, even if they didn't apply for the waiver. We did, because we do a lot of on-the-job training here. We're one of the highest on-the-job training participants in the entire state. So last year we did over $1.2 million in employer reimbursements for training contracts. So we do a lot of it.
So what is, as far as the jobs that are available that you're seeing, what are if there's one that stands out as being most common or most in demand, what would that be?
Wow. So anything in medical right now, I know we're running we did run a recruitment for Hall Ambulance recently for their EMT program. We're seeing a lot of medical home health aides, huge opportunities there. We're seeing a lot in food service, a lot of companies hiring for food service right now. So I would say those are the main ones that we're seeing in the food service, mostly because they're trying to ramp back up. And anecdotally, I actually went to breakfast the other day and they had a super limited menu for what they normally have. And I said, wow, you guys have really downsized your menu. And they said, yes, because we don't have enough cooks in order to have the broader menu. So this is what we can do right now. So we're seeing a lot of demand in those industries.
Yeah, it's such a challenge. You see places that are only open for one of the service that they usually are open lunch and dinner, and they're only open for maybe dinner now.
Exactly, because they don't have the employees.
And it's a huge problem, and probably not going to go away really soon. But
September 5th.
But you can, there you have it. There you have it from the professional, September 5th. So yeah, September 5th. I'm glad you said that.
Well, we're hearing it, and we're hearing employers who are coming in and telling us that they've literally talked to folks and they've said they're not coming back to work until that expires.
It means so much coming from you, because I've already said it about 13 times or something equivalent.
But we do have youth 18 to 24. They've never worked, as Callie mentioned. They haven't been on unemployment. They're not getting that. They're looking for a job so that they can support themselves. We have a lot of emancipated foster youth who are looking for opportunities. I mean, it's the perfect opportunity to give someone a chance to work in your business. So I would say give us a call. We'll figure something out for you.
Okay. Well, just going back through the chat one more time, finishing up in there's some EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, the application, the mapping for the targeted EIDL. There's your toll-free number. I used it yesterday and we got in literally in 2 minutes and talked to them. So there's also where you can email customer service. So there's a lot of resources out there. There's more resources on the Family and Medical Leave Act, as many of you know out there. I have not done a good job of covering that. And it's almost getting comical how bad I've done on covering that. But there are resources that are out there. And as we continue to focus on the financial resources that are out there and financial programs, you've been offered many of them today through America's Job Center, through ETR, the Employers Training Resource. we'll continue to do that and continue to look at the financial remedies and assistance that you have. And you guys can find the HR specialist out there that deal a little bit better on that particular topic. So we see also the link there for America's Job Center. And how can we get the glass for our home gardens?
Recycling lives. You know what? Just contact us at America's Job Center about any of those landscaping questions that you might have as far as access to the glass, and we will send you the information. Great. Or I can send it to Kelly and he can get it out to everybody who's on the call.
So Recycling Lives is live.
It's live. That's yesterday. Great. We're really excited. I think it's going to be great. We're really excited about this first launch.
Mm-hmm. And who needs, a couple million broken wine bottles and other colored bottles in landfills? Exactly. Yeah.
We're trying to reduce the amount we're putting in landfills right now. And I know a lot of folks think when they put that glass in that, blue can that it's getting recycled, and a lot of it isn't. So,
hey, here's a question that I missed in the chat box. I've heard you talk about much younger workers. That's true, we have. How about us young at heart, folks that are 60 plus that are still want and still need to work?
We have opportunities for them too. We mentioned the culinary program. I have the person that we hired to do our cashiering for that program is 85 years young. So we have a little bit of something for everybody, and we are happy to help you no matter what your age. We will connect you to, again, that perfect job for you, the one that meets your interests, skills, and abilities. That's what we do, and that's what we strive to do with all of our participants. So we are, if you're out there, you're looking for a job, you're looking for something different, let us know. We're happy to provide training opportunity for you. We have, like I said, we have a lot of employers hiring. We probably have something that would fit your skills and abilities right now. So whether you're looking to go to work immediately or you're looking to get some skills to change careers, we're happy to help you.
Never too late to start a new career.
I would say that's true.
Okay, well, looks like we're about out of time. So Teresa, it's great to see you. It's been too long, and great information on employment and finding employees. Remember, America's Job Center is there, the employer training resource. You have the link, and contact some of their job developers and get some of those needed employees that you need to find. So for Teresa Hitchcock, I'm Kelly Bearden. Have a great week. We'll be back next week for webinar number 67. So enjoy reopening. Goodbye, everyone.